All right, we are live again.
Hey, what is up? All my peoples. It's culturally damaged back after, geez, how long's it been, Dan?
It has been almost a couple of years now, I think.
Almost a couple of years. So we recently talked and decided that we needed to come back to save the world. That there was just too many problems that have occurred since the last time that we have aired. So we needed to come back and talk about it.
And when we
It's
do have
cathartic.
any watchers, we'll have to see if they can hear. So, actually, what I'm going to do is, since we don't have anyone watching at them, oh, we got a couple. So, please chime in and let us know if we sound okay. So, there, hey, let's see. So, we sound okay. We got a hey.
Now, just so you know, I have this microphone for looks only. I've tried to install it. I just bought it 15 minutes ago and it is not working yet. So next week, I will sound better. I will sound as good as Dan, but I will never look as good as Dan.
Well, that is hard to do though. So good. We sound good. Unfortunately, we look what we look like. So you're stuck with that. So Chris,
Yeah.
what's been
Yes.
going on with you the last almost couple years?
Well, where do we start? Um, no, I have a 19-month-old boy. My wife, who you can see back here in this picture. We're just kind of chugging along, man. The
Hey Tony.
pandemic swept us off our feet, and we've been spending a lot of time at home, and it's been kind of rough goings. But um, thankfully, we have some things that are keeping us going, like oh, I don't know, the Buccaneers one game away from the Super Bowl, the Tampa Bay Rays going to the World Series.
And we had a
Uh,
boring election cycle too, didn't we?
Well, last but not least, in the sporting world, the Lightning Bolts won the Stanley Cup. So
I'm
that was
not sure they're
exciting.
called the lightning bolts though. I think they're just the
Well,
lightning.
then why does it say Bolts in their jersey, Dan?
Well, it does say bolts, but I think they're just the lightning. I just call them the lightning. I don't know. Maybe some users can chime in. So
Well,
I think, oh wow, there we go. Somebody thinks that. Well, somebody's obviously needs new glasses apparently. So we'll
oh
just go with that.
no, we thank you for your listenership, and I don't see what Dan's seeing, but I think that we are technically the Lightning, but we can be the Lightning Bolts if we want. I'm the Thunder. I could be whatever we want.
Well, that's the fans' job. We're the Thunder. That's for sure. So well, with me, since you asked, what's been new with me? Uh, it's pretty much the same. So thankfully, as we, I think as we were finishing up our shows last time, I had lost a lot of weight, and I'm happy to report that I've kept the vast majority of that weight off. That's usually the struggle with anybody who loses weight is keeping it off. So yeah, see, we got somebody who said they say lightning, so we're gonna go with that. One person chimed in, so we're going with that. But anyway,
That's all
yeah.
right.
So that was that. Unfortunately, this year obviously or last year was a really tough year for a lot of people for a lot of reasons. I lost my girl Pandora. So as most people know, and you knew, she was my heart and soul, and so that was a really tough way to start the pandemic. And thankfully, though, as the pandemic is coming to a close, so I got a new 2-year-old Dalmatian, Isla, and so she's fit into the home very well, and it's made what ended up being a horrific year. I have to say it turned out to be a pretty decent year for me because of that.
Well,
You know,
good. Look, there's silver lining in everything. The last 2 years, while it's been tough, we've been through some tough times on my end. Obviously, people who know us know what I'm talking about. Had a battle with COVID recently. That was pretty difficult. Kind of put a little scare into us.
tell
But
me about that. Tell me about your experience with COVID, since we have a few listeners here, and hopefully not too many of us have had it. But what was your
yeah,
experience?
yeah. Well, first off, we're very careful. Like we don't go anywhere. I mean, generally speaking, we don't go out. We don't. If we go in restaurants, we're usually sitting outside. Very careful. But one day, it was a month ago on this past Monday, I started feeling a little nauseous. So I got out of the office and went and got myself checked. and they said that I didn't have COVID. I got a rapid test. They said I didn't have it. So I went home thinking I just had the flu, stayed in bed for a couple of days. And then my wife on the Wednesday said, "Hey, look, you need to go get tested again because those rapid tests aren't very good." My wife's way smarter than I am. And so she takes me, or I go to a clinic. I test positive. And so, everything kind of like freaks you out a little bit. You're like, well, I'm going to be fine. I'm kind of young. I mean, not real young, but,
No,
semi young,
you're not. No, sorry.
middle age. I run in marathons a lot. I watch marathons on television a lot. But no, I don't have any comorbidities. I'm not morbidly obese. I might be a little obese, but I'm not morbidly obese. So I thought I was going to be fine. The first 4 days, maybe 5 days, lost my taste, had a fever, had the chills a little bit, but nothing more than the flu. And then about that fifth day, man, I just started having a little bit of a difficulty breathing. I was under the care of some good doctors, and I was checking my oxygen levels pretty often. They started to dip down a little bit, but my heart started beating real fast. And then I ended up spending about 4 days at the hospital. I was taken to Tampa General, stayed there. I had pneumonia, had a hard time breathing. They put me on some oxygen. A lot of it was probably just me being anxious and just being worried. And then, like, I started to react. But I did have pneumonia, and that was pretty. That made it real. But I was taken very good care of, and the whole time that I was at home, my wife took care of me like she would a baby, and because I was a little baby, I'll ring a little bell and she'd come bring me stuff. But the amazing thing is that she never got it, and she slept, in the same bed with me for the 2 nights I thought I didn't have it, but I probably did, and she never got it. And the two little boys,
Did
Caleb
you wear a
and
mask to bed?
did I wear a mask to
No,
bed?
did she?
No,
Yeah. Okay, just
no, she did not because I tested negative, so she thought she'd be all right. But I think a lot of it has to do with she has type O blood, and we've seen a lot of reports recently that those people are a little more resistant to COVID. So she never got it. Frankie never got it. My 19-month-old, my 7-year-old boy was at home, and he had to quarantine at the house the whole time. So Raquel had to take care of the boys and me all at the same time for 14 days. And I don't know how she did it, but thank God for her. But that's the silver lining in the whole thing, is that the kids never got it. The wife never got it. I'm fine now.
And your parents live here too, right? You didn't spread it.
They're actually not here. They're up in God's country. No, they're up in West Virginia now, hiding in the mountains from the COVID monster. But they have
go up into the mountains, does it?
No, it doesn't. It only goes up to a certain altitude. No, that's not true. Actually, don't do not listen to me. I do not provide medical advice. I am not Dr. Fauci. My degree behind me is not a medical degree. But I can tell you that it sucks. That's for sure. It's for real. People say, "Oh, it's just the flu." It's not. It's not the flu. To some people, it's not that bad. You lose your sense of taste, your sense of smell. That was the least of my concerns. So it was a rough go, but I'm alive. I'm well, and it's all good. So I'm just happy to be back on Culturally Damaged with my good friend Dan.
Well, that I appreciate that, and that kind of reminds me of how I think our country feels right now. So I think we've been through a lot. Obviously the last 4 years we've been through a lot, but especially over, I'd say, like the last 6 months, and to kind of come through this whole process that we came through as a country and still have our democracy intact, I think is a pretty good thing. Sometimes I wasn't sure if that's what was going to happen or not, but it's nice to see that all of our elected officials are safe still through a lot. Obviously the last 4 years we've been through a lot, but especially over, I'd say, like the last 6 months. Is that me or you, Parker? Through this whole process that we came through as a country and still have our democracy. Parker, do you have Facebook open?
Not anymore.
Okay, yeah, please. Amateur. So what did you participate in any of the campaign activities or anything like that this year?
I wanted to. We were
You worked on
pregnant.
the Obama campaign, didn't you? A couple of them.
I did in 2008. I was a field organizer after I graduated from law school. I went and volunteered. I liked what he was saying. I dug it. I wanted to get involved in something because I was waiting on my bar results to come back. So I needed something to do. So I volunteered probably like 40 hours a week. I was really pounding the pavement as a fellow. I got a fellowship with the Obama administration. And then I became a field organizer. And then I went back in 2012 and worked as a regional director for the Obama Biden campaign in the Orlando Daytona area. So I was heavily involved in those campaigns. I did get some calls from the Biden campaign to work here, but we were pregnant, and my wife and I
Ooh,
were expecting our second child, and so we had a lot of complications with that. Our little boy did not make it due to a chromosome issue. And so we were really concentrating on that. And as important as this election was to me, it was a far, far runner up in my priority book at that time. So we had to take care of one another. But I did what I could. I tried to help out with finding some office space and such things like that I could do on the side. But hey, it worked out. And thanks to you, you were very involved. I mean, I gotta say, Dan, the last time that we were together, I felt that you were kind of pulling away from a lot of, your Republican positions, at least the way your party. I don't know if you were going away from the party or the party was going away from you, but I could tell that was happening. But you've made another transformation in addition to the one that you've made with your body. You've made one politically.
well, I would say the last time that we
People
were
are
on
like, "What
air,
happened?" Everybody
well,
always asks me what happened to Dan,
yeah.
and so you can tell people what happened.
Well, the last time we were on air, obviously, since the last time I was a Republican. The last time we were on air, I was a Republican. It probably wasn't that long after that I became an NPA. A little disillusioned with the party, especially their outlooks on race and the LGBTQ issues, really forced me to look hard and long at staying a Republican. So I decided to leave the party. And part of that was political so that I could not have a political affiliation and engage people on both sides without the stigma of being affiliated with a party.
And
But
that helps a lot in your judicial campaigns that you work, right? I mean, isn't that
yeah,
important
yeah,
to
it's
kind of have?
important. I mean, you want to be able to approach people from a neutral standpoint. The sad truth is our society is so polarized right now that anytime you mention a political party, you're all of a sudden, either a terrorist or you're a communist. And so there's very little wiggle room for most people. And
One or
so,
the other.
yeah. And let's see, we will never take our democratic system for granted again. I agree with that. And there was a time, and so, but yeah, as the pandemic hit, really, is what really changed my viewpoints on stuff. And I knew that sitting in the middle, you can't make the same difference sitting in the middle. So at that point, I picked the side of right and justice as far as I saw in my eyes, and became a Democrat, just in case anyone was confused.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you got your fair share of what for that. I'm sure that there are people that probably won't talk to you anymore, at least won't talk politics with you anymore. So
Well, I don't
that
think
was
they minded me
pretty,
switching.
pretty
Probably all the stuff I said after that is the reason why they don't want to have conversation with me anymore.
you're not really one to hold anything back. We'll say that. I mean, I saw some of your Facebook posts and nearly peed myself a little bit. I was so taken back. I couldn't believe some of the stuff that you said. But you're always
true, correct. I mean,
why do you go, why do you go so hard? Like, why is it like that you just don't care? Like, you just go so hard because I know that you've got a lot to lose.
yeah.
So when you go hard like that, why do you go so hard on Facebook and social media?
Well, I'll tell you what. When I started organizing some of those rallies in Palm Harbor with my friend Jen, and you started to see the people that would come out, and they're not like, they're just retirees, they're veterans, they're school teachers, they're public servants, attorneys, all kinds of stuff. They'd come out there and they'd wave signs and flags. We'd listen to music. And then the little Trumpkins would show up. They'd show up in their trucks and their Jeeps and their this and their that. They'd have their Confederate flags, their whatever, the 1776 flag, the Don't Tread on Me, get their little bullhorns, their little red hats, and they'd get in people's faces and yell and scream. 80-year-old women they'd yell at. And so, like, when you're in the middle of this, you just can't. It's impossible to sit silent. And so, a lot of that is because I could see what the words of the president were provoking these horrific people to say and do horrific things locally, and it just became quite apparent that my friends and family, even though, look, as a white male, you and I both, we can walk through this world and not really have any, that many issues to bother us. But that's not true if you're not a white middle-aged male. And so, for me, it was a matter of sticking up for those people that aren't as strong or that don't have the same voice that we might have.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let me ask you a couple of things. The first thing I want to ask you, and I ask you because I respect your opinion, why do you think it is that people on the local level, the national level, were so enthralled by what the president was saying? Why were they so almost obedient to follow him, sort of like someone would at a cult? And the second part of the question is, do you think those people that you saw at those rallies who were so venomous to you and to everybody else who came out there on the side of the Democratic side and Biden, do you think they represent the majority of the Republican Party?
Do I think that everybody in the Republican Party is an asshole? No. Came out to wave the flags and get in people's faces and bullhorns. Those people are just assholes, and there's no reason to communicate with them or do anything. There's I think everybody in this country, everybody in the world wants to believe that they can believe what their leader says. And I think there's a belief or a desire to believe what the president of the United States says. And the issue becomes the alternative facts and the alternative news medias and the online medias and the memes that people share, because it creates this web. And it used to be that you could tell somebody to Google it or just look it up, and now no matter what's said in the world, if you actually look it up, you're going to find it. Like, you'll actually find proof of what you're looking for. It's not real, but it's there. And it was a slow process. I mean, this has been happening over years and years and years. And I think that Donald Trump was just that, it was the, remember they had the Superstorm Sandy kind of stuff. It was just the convergence of multiple things coming together, and you get that perfect storm. And, I think Republicans I was there in 2016 when local Republicans got up and says, look, he's not our first choice. He's not our second choice, third, fourth, but he's our he's our representative for president. So we're going to get behind him. By 2018, the party became the party of Trump. And anybody who has been elected or nominated or any sort of power within the Republican Party locally as well is essentially a Trump supporter. And so that was partly where my disillusionment, because it became about a person, not a party or an idea as well.
There's a lot of talk right now about unity. We saw the inaugural speech by President Biden, and a lot, there's people out there that are saying, don't waste your time, man. Like, it's not going to happen. We're too polarized. Do you believe that we can find enough unity to get things done? Or do you think that it's just not worth it, that you just have to fight with your side and then just hope you can beat down the other side?
Well, I think we have to try. I think most people, outside of whether we support the president or not, when you get down to their actual politics, it comes down to most people are just a little left or a little right. I think that's the reality of the average American. Unfortunately, the elected officials don't necessarily see it that way. And that's partly the primary process, because even As we talk about the Republican Party, the fracture that's going on right now, the elected officials, and some of them are saying what I would assume seem like the right thing, but then you hear what is the Hillsborough County chair of the party. It was interviewing, and he still says that it was a rigged election and that it was fraud and blah blah blah. And so, how do you move forward, or how do you have political dialogue with people who are unwilling to even acknowledge that Biden was elected in a fair election? So,
Why is it that you believe, and I believe the same thing, and you should, but can you explain to our viewers or listeners why is it that beyond a reasonable doubt that this election was not rigged?
because every single state certified their elections, and I've been so involved in elections, and those states are also have, some of them have Republican governors, Republican secretaries of state. But it's not just that, because the reality is all these elections are run by counties. Like every single county has its own supervisor of elections. They have thousands of people, hundreds of people that work on this stuff and that are viewing this. I think you've been an election, what do they call, a poll watcher, and you've had and there's attorneys. I know in the state of Florida, in the county, there's attorneys, judges that are watching all of this stuff. Like, it is so closely supervised that
It is.
like, it's just impossible for this to happen. In the Pinellas County alone, I think there's like 40 something ballots because of all the different municipal elections, the different amendments, the different charter things, all that kind of stuff. So when somebody sits there and says that they're going to swoop in and do all these mail ballots, well, they actually have to know how many people are in precincts and how many people are. It's just not possible. It's not logistically possible. So
don't you find it kind of odd though that the president? Don't you find it kind of odd that the president said all through the campaign that the only way that he could lose this election was if the election was rigged? So how do you beat someone like that, right? Because when you beat him, you couldn't have possibly beat him because without any evidence, he says that it's rigged. Now, people say they have evidence, but the obvious question is, why wasn't it presented in front of the courts? I mean, there are a plethora of courts where evidence was given the opportunity to be presented to judges. Many of those judges appointed by Republicans, some of those judges appointed by the president himself, who said, listen, you don't have enough evidence to even make it, not the trial, but you don't even have enough evidence to keep this case alive to get to the discovery phase. Your evidence is so weak and non-existent that we're not going to waste this court's time and the taxpayers' money with it. So, anybody can file a suit, but you have to have at least an inkling of evidence. And if you don't, that's what happens. The judge, the judge will throw it out, and then they'll tell you.
Often. Like, that does not happen often. Like, judges really try to not throw stuff out like that. Like, they don't want to, because they understand they want people to have their day in court. So they generally do everything that they can to allow stuff to proceed. So it's insane.
Well, they've had every opportunity to present their case. There was no evidence, very little evidence of any fraud. So at that point, everything starts to get ratified. All the states begin to certify their elections. And so we still see stop the steal. Stop the steal. Why do these people still think that this thing was rigged? Is it just the word of one man who obviously has everything to gain and everything to lose by winning this election?
Well, it's the industry that has risen up to support that one man, is really what has it's that entire, Fox News is almost like a left-leaning media outlet. It can, considering to some, you'll talk to some of these people and they sit there and say that Fox News is a bunch of communists. And so, that's the insanity, that when Fox News starts to look like, like left-leaning, like, we really have a problem with our media and our splintering and all that kind of stuff. So, by the way, your dad says hello. So,
hey, Pops, how you doing?
Mom and Dad both.
Go Herd.
So, yes, go Herd. So,
yes. Well, it's amazing to me that we've gotten to this point. I always used to wonder as a kid, like, Germans seem like they're not stupid people. Like, how would they have ever, during any century or any decade, how would they have ever followed a hateful um, person or leader like Adolf Hitler? But I think in the last 4 years, the last 5 years, we've seen how that brainwashing process actually happens and how people feel that even though what they're doing is obviously very wrong, that it feels right. And, from a psychological point of view, it's been a very weird 5 years, but at least I think we've seen how deep that we can actually go into the depths of nationalism and just terrible policy or no policy at all.
I agree, as we got closer, after the election, and then we had obviously what ended up on January 6th, and the realities of the situation. There was no legal way to change the election. So when the president of the United States is asking Mike Pence to not certify the election, he is asking the vice president of the United States to disregard the Constitution and install him as the president. Like, there is no legal way to change the election results.
It's a coup d'etat.
So the president is talking about this. He is talking about overthrowing democracy. And how any party or person who says that they're an American and who loves America, regardless of who that person has been elected, I just don't understand how they could support the overthrow of an election. And I mean, because the physical overthrow of Congress was the only possible way that Trump was going to remain in office. And I think he knew about it. And this is what is so damaging to our country, and why I am so I think you and I both saw this person, and obviously now when you look back and you see the people didn't cry because Hillary lost like in 2016. I mean, people were shocked, but I think people cried because they knew that Donald Trump was going to become president, and a lot of the people who voted for Hillary at the time understood who the person that Donald Trump was. I can say I did not. I had no clue that he was this terrible of a human being, much less a terrible president or a terrible leader. And so I think, as far as when I make decisions in the future, the first important thing is going to be character. And I mean, I never really thought, I didn't know anything about Joe Biden, but I just, or time, I knew something about Hillary, but, Hillary had a lot of people who disliked her. And, it just,
yeah.
Hillary
represented the establishment. I mean, she was 100% establishment. From the get-go. People are tired of the same old. And honestly, I think that Joe represents kind of the same thing. He's been around.
Chris Parker is a character. We had somebody said that you have character.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Russ, you paid him, I guess.
Oh, yeah. I pay Russ weekly. I forget what I was going to say, but, I honestly see a lot of the people that were storming the Capitol a couple of weeks ago. I almost see those people as victims. Like I don't want to make excuses for them. They're adults and they made their own decision to take off Wednesday and fly to D.C., storm the Capitol. And I guess they intended on holding some of these congressmen, the vice president, hostage, and then installing the president for the rest of his life, and then going back on Thursday and going back to their jobs as, firemen, telemarketers, whatever it is they do, and everything was going to be okay. And obviously that's not the way that happened, but how mentally demented and just deranged do you have to be to think that that was okay? To think that it was okay to kill a police officer, to be part of a mob that took over the Capitol building. Like, how do you get to that point, man?
It's a scary. It is extraordinarily scary, and I think that's the real legacy of what's going on here. And that, yes, the president is now ex-president, and he's left, but he's left behind a mess, and he's left behind these people that are now kind of essentially rudderless, and who knows what they're going to latch onto and do. And so. And one of our listeners chimed in and said that, you have to be able to listen to someone who has other viewpoints. And I would
Exactly.
agree. Politics to me is arguing whether people should get $1,400 or they should get $600. Whether you're going to raise taxes or you're going to lower taxes. When people are out there saying that Joe Biden's a pedophile and these others, this is just nonsensical stuff, and supporting a traitorous like anti-American, that's not politics. Like saying that Donald Trump, that someone who supports Donald Trump is a terrible person, that's not politics. And I'm not going to discuss politics with somebody who can't see clearly enough that Donald Trump is a terrible person. If you believe that Donald Trump is a good person, I have no conversation with you, because that's not
Okay.
politics.
How about this person? And I'm not going
Marilyn Manson was going to run for office, right?
Yeah.
You just forget all the other.
Marilyn or Charles?
Charles, sorry. Yeah, Marilyn either, but yeah, Charles.
Marilyn's not a bad guy. Marilyn hadn't done a whole lot of bad. Just it's a character, right? Okay, so there's people out there who they don't like Trump. They think he's an a-hole, for lack of a better word. He's very egotistical. He cares about himself. They know that. They're okay with that.
But he loves America.
But they want their tax cuts. They want somebody who's going to stand up there and say how it is, not how they want it to be. And they're going to tell their mind, and he's going to speak his mind, and they like his policies. They're okay with some of the things that we might consider cruel, because they think that that's what we need to do to save the union. Okay, so what about those people? I mean, do you have good conversations with those people about, immigration policies or tax policies? I mean, are you able to talk to those people?
Not if they're going to sit there and openly support Trump. So I mean, like when someone tells me, at least, somebody on my timeline posted something about, oh, we're going to have $4 gasoline. Thanks, Joe. I mean, hell,
we're not going to have a gasoline tax, right? So that's not going to happen.
No.
If it does happen, it's not the president's doing.
Agreed.
There's a lot of things that come into gas prices. So that's silly.
It's like I see these people making these posts about Biden forcing these National Guardsmen and women to stay in the garage. Like, this is the stupidity of these people. Like, they actually post this stuff that actually, as if Joe Biden had any clue that this was happening, that even any elected official, Republican or Democrat, had anything to do with this. Like, it's just the most asinine thing, but they'll sit there and share this stuff, and how it's lunacy. These people really are.
The misinformation is really bad, but there are people out there that, in my opinion, that might have supported Trump, and I'm deeply disappointed in some of those people. But I can still have a conversation with them about things, and it's not completely terrible. I don't consider them to be, idiots or hate the country because of it. So I think that's where we have to start. I know you do, and I think it's funny where we've gone in 2 years, right? But I don't know. I just like to hear from some of these Trump people to hear what made him so great. We found out this week or yesterday that he really had absolutely no plan for the pandemic whatsoever. That they opened up the books yesterday and there was nothing in there. And that the new president came up with a new plan. And to talk about Biden and all these, I don't even want to dignify with a response anything about a pedophile. That's so ludicrous. Well, I've followed Joe Biden for many years. I even applied to work for his office back in like 2005 as an intern when he was in the U.S. Senate. And my professor laughed at me like, why would you want to work for the senior senator of Delaware? But I've always liked Joe Biden. He's always kind of caught my attention because he's a regular guy. The only knock anybody could really have on Joe Biden that he's too nice. He's too good of a guy. He's sort of a Jimmy Carter in some ways because he's just sometimes I think he sees the good in people too much. But he's always positive. He's a wonderful person that's been through a lot of tragedy. I know you know that, but I've read memoirs, books on Joe, and I've had the opportunity to shake his hand, and I can tell you that if anything, he's a good guy. Um, if there's nobody that's more ready to be president than this guy, the only knock is maybe his age, that he's old. But is he in his prime? Would he have made the best president now or possibly 10 years ago? God knows he's runs a lot of times. But I think right now, in 2016, he did not run because his son was suffering from cancer and had just died of brain cancer. Um, there was a big deal about that, about him running. And had he run in 2016, would we be where we are right now? Or would we be looking at potential second term for Joe Biden or somebody else that might have beat him?
As
But
as close as it was, I say he would have won. I mean,
he probably would have. There's a lot of baggage he didn't have that she had. However, he did have baggage, and he would have had to answer to a lot of things, especially considering the immigration policy under the Obama administration, which was very stiff, which was very tough. We deported a lot of people, more people than we'd ever deported before him under his administration, but he didn't run because his family wasn't ready. He wasn't ready. And he honestly, I don't know what you know about Bo Biden, but Bo Biden was an impressive man. You're talking about the son of Joe Biden, who uh, was in the National Guard, became the Attorney General in Delaware, and then went to Iraq while serving as Attorney General on a tour of duty for the National Guard. Had announced that he was running for governor of Delaware when he did get diagnosed with cancer, with brain cancer. But what a loss. And for somebody like Joe to have lost his daughter, to have lost his wife, and to take care of his sons while he was in Senate, and then watch his son grow up to be so successful in Bo, and then watching him die, for him to kind of proceed with life at a level that he is at his age is just nothing short of awesome to me.
I mean, the first day, or the first night, being the capital with the memorial to the people that we've lost with COVID. I mean, the previous president never had any sort of memorial for anything and ignored it. Hoax, and Joe made it the first thing he did really as president, is acknowledging the deaths of these 400,000 Americans are already dead, and another 100,000 are probably going to die before we're done with this. I mean, it's just unbelievable where we are with this.
If Donald Trump would have seriously addressed COVID-19 and showed some sympathy or empathy, however you would put it, to those who lost family members and friends, do you think that he would have won the 2020 election?
Absolutely. He this election was his to lose, even as terrible as he managed the coronavirus in the beginning. This election was still his to lose. For Joe Biden, thank God that Donald Trump is in. It is for him. He is in. It is impossible for him to do the right thing, to be a good person, to be a decent human being. It is completely impossible. And so, because of that, at every moment that he had to be a good person and do the right thing, he did what was in his best, what he thought was in his best interest, and not the nation. And that's why he lost. That's why he lost me.
Do you think that Joe Biden is the only Democratic candidate who could have beaten Trump?
I don't know, but I would rather not I'm happy the way things work. Just when things work, they work, and you just move on. You don't.
Oftentimes, and we talk about it a lot in Florida, is that we're putting these moderate candidates up, and we're losing. We're putting John Kerry. We're putting in Florida. We're putting up these gubernatorial candidates who are all moderates, and we're losing. So the far left side of the party is saying, "Hey, enough of that. Let's put together. People want to hear a left. The left wants to hear a left agenda. They don't want to hear the middle. Why should we have to govern from the middle and they govern from the right?" But with Joe's a moderate. Now people are going to argue that the left wing of the party is going to pull him over, and to an extent, I hope they do pull him over a little bit. I hope he's a little left of center. But Joe's going to be Joe, and Joe's a middle of the road guy. He always has been. And I think he might have been the only person that could have won that election. Honestly, I just think there was that little 3 or 4% of the Republicans that came over to our side during that election, like Dan Perry. That could have been the difference.
Yeah, and I mean, there was, there was obviously a lot of anti-Trump, but I was shocked and somewhat dismayed with how many votes that President Trump did get. When you feel the way that you see the world the way we see it, and you see how many people voted for him, knowing all of this just terrible stuff that he has done. It's hard, and there's other issues that go along with it, but it was difficult to see. We had a comment here from your buddy Russ
questions
that was asking about that laptop, the laptop that was stolen, and they tried to give it to the Russians. So this kind of sounds like a Trump move to work with the Russians here. So it appears that his cronies.
I did read about that. The woman had stole the laptop from Pelosi's office and had said something on camera or in her video about giving it to Russia and had planned on selling it to Russia. I didn't know that she was released. I think that's crazy. I think she's committed several high crimes, serious federal felonies. I'm not sure what her bond was set at, but say she had a bond set at $1 million, and she had a bondsman who posted $100,000 or posted the amount for her, and she paid $100,000 to get out. If you have cash in this country, if you have money, if you have assets, you can post a bond and get out of jail. If you don't have money and you don't have assets, you can't, and you sit in jail. Apparently, this woman had assets, unless the federal government just did not charge her with anything as serious as what it sounds like they should have. But that's when you hear far left politicians talk about the cash bond system that we have in America and getting rid of it. I think that's what we're talking about. If you don't have the money or you don't have the assets to put up to prove to give to the government so they can hold and see that you come back to court, then you sit in jail. And a lot of people have been sitting in jail for about at least a year now because they went in right before COVID happened, couldn't afford to pay their bond, and we don't have trials now. We can't have trials because of COVID. So guess what? While they await their trial, guess where they sit? In the county jail. And it could be something as, a third-degree felony. It could be a driving on a suspended license for the third time. It could be a misdemeanor. I doubt it.
Up by the sheriff's department when you're at a Biden rally, huh?
Well, I can't get into open cases, so I will not be discussing anything that's an open case that I am representing. So, let's move on to Tony's comment on that.
So, what did you just say, Tony? What do we got here?
Well, he's just saying that's insane. Well, it doesn't make sense. That's kind of what I'm saying too.
Here's the reality is, as you mentioned, this lady is probably one of these people that just, woohoo, let's go to DC, let's blah, 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 blah. And then she decides to see a laptop.
Revolution.
Yeah. There's no tracking. My God, my MacBook has a thing that says find my MacBook and I can find it. Like it does. The technology to locate hardware is not that difficult. And to think that a laptop that's owned by, Congresswoman is not going to be trackable. Come on. And she had a friend in Russia. The reality is it ended up being a really serious thing, but she's probably some knucklehead, who thought, but
probably.
Yeah, well, she's definitely a knucklehead, that's for sure.
I've never seen a collection of so many knuckleheads, but I was scared for the people that were inside. I was scared for the Republicans and the Democrats that were inside. They were chanting to hang the vice president. And man, listen, that guy has been by Trump's side for 4 years through thick and thin. And that poor SOB, they were going to put him on a guillotine because he wouldn't take the election, as he presided over the Senate in a confirmation hearing, right? Or the certification.
And I don't have a whole lot of respect for him, but I will at least respect that he did his job during the that cycle. But it's just absurd that essentially, I mean, look, this is everybody. It's all these QAnon, it's all these people who went to the Capitol. The reality is the president encouraged all these people to go. He got them all worked up and unleashed them onto the Capitol. And then he takes his Air Force One down to Mar-a-Lago as all these people are now being arrested and going to spend years in prison. And some of them just thought like you said, they thought, oh, we'll go up to DC and have some fun and cause some chaos and then go home for the weekend, and
1776, man, we've had enough.
Yeah,
we're not going to tread on me.
So the last 15 minutes or so, do you want to talk about maybe some football? What do you think?
Hell yeah. I'm ready for some football. Well, Sunday.
I've been getting a lot more thumbs up than fingers with the Bucks flag on the Jeep than I did with the Biden flags. So
yeah, well, hey, there you go.
It's a much more enjoyable experience out there with the Bucks flags on, I can tell you.
Well, don't get me wrong. I want to win on Sunday, but it's going to be a very uphill battle. I said it last week. I honestly had my doubts about beating the Saints. My saving grace about beating the Saints were it's tough to beat a team 3 times in 1 year, and the Saints had already just had their way with us twice. We changed our defensive strategy on Sunday. We created turnovers for the first time all year, it seemed like. And, man, they came out to play. But I'm a little worried.
Winston do that touchdown. It looked like, oh, crap, here we go. This is not going to be a good game.
Can you imagine losing that game and the only touchdown thrown was, Winston's 50-yarder to the guy down the middle of the field?
I honestly, and I talked to people at the dog park about this, and I was like, oh, my God, I don't want to watch the rest of this game. Like after that, of course, it had to be Jameis, and I'm like thinking, oh my God, here goes the secondary. The secondary's, Swiss cheese. Like it's just going to be a terrible.
It really wasn't much. It really wasn't much of a trick play. The running back, he gets the snap, and Jameis comes around. He pitches the ball to Jameis, and Jameis throws the ball downfield. Now,
and he's not the athlete either. Like we've seen him stumble over his own feet and all this other stuff. So
if you're a defensive back. If you're a defensive back for the Bucks and you see Jameis come in, you know who he is. Hell, you played with him for several years. You probably know what he smells like. The guy comes in, you got to alert everybody. This is a trick play. Jameis Winston is now at receiver. Something's going on here. He's not going out for a pass. He's slow as Drew Bledsoe. Like, he's not going anywhere. So that play kind of disappointed me, how we let them get the best of us on that play. But, man, we contained Drew Brees. He couldn't do anything. We shut his career down, retired him right there on his own field. But now we got to go to Aaron Rodgers, and it doesn't get any easier. If we lose championship, right there. Yeah. If we lose NFC Championship game, I'm okay with it. As long as we don't beat ourselves.
Has it already been a successful season?
What's that?
If they lose, is the season already a success?
Absolutely. All year long before this season started, all the experts were saying 9-7 or 9-6, 8-8, and that's what we were hearing. Even with that schedule, they should have won more. They should have lost to the Bears. I'd say I'll take the other losses like a man. The Saints, the Chiefs, the Rams all beat us. But the Bears, we should have won that game. We should have been 12-4, or what would it be? It'd been 12-4. Is my math right? 12-4. So yeah, this year has been great to go on the road and win 2 road games. Next year, Drew Brees is gone. He's no longer in the division.
They were talking. I mean, at least Brees was saying something. I guess there were comments about Brees saying it's yours now or something. I'm sure Saints ownership will have something to say about that. But
I hope so.
I would agree.
So. And you know what? We win the division next year. We get a home game, or we get a bye. Hopefully, if we win enough games, we get a bye. We just got to keep that core back, man. We got to keep those linebackers there. We got to get Vita Vea back. We got to get OJ. Gronkowski's pretty much all but said he's coming back. Yep. We know Brady's coming back. So, I mean, right now,
the season was a success when we signed Brady. as far as I was concerned. Like it changed the fortune. It changed everything that people thought about Buccaneer football. You can hear the players talk about just his sense of leadership. And that's, look, I mean, is Brady a good quarterback? Yes. Is he the best quarterback that has ever played this game as far as his physical skills? Probably not, but
No,
his intangibles, it's the leadership.
yeah.
It's, all those things, his willingness to work hard. Hey, Susie. And, that's what translated when they brought Brady on. It became, and obviously, when Brady throws an interception, whatever, but if someone drops a pass, he has the authority, the track record to come in and call somebody out for not playing well. Jameis Winston is over there licking his fingers for W's. How are you going to like the job of a quarterback is I know, like, that.
I didn't have a big problem with that, but listen, you're comparing,
but it's
poor Jameis, you're comparing to the GOAT, man. The best has ever lived. I know my dad's going to say Johnny Unitas was best ever lived. And, I never saw him play, and I'm sure he was tough. I'm sure he was great. I have no doubts about that. I have all the respect in the world for him. But numbers speak for themselves. Love him or hate him, Tom Brady finds a way to win games with whoever he's got on the field. This year it happens that he has a lot better players on the field he's had before. But, man, he's had obstacles too. He's had to learn a new offense, man. Like, this offense is completely different than everything he's ever been used to. And for him and Byron Leftwich and Bruce Arians to come together and make this offense happen, because there's been some rough patches this year, man. I mean, let's look at games where we started out the first half, we didn't have like a first down.
Well, to that question, we're both Marshall graduates here. And so Byron is a product of Marshall University. So what are your thoughts about him as a offensive coordinator, his future? Because I think there's been some criticism, especially in those games that I think that you're talking about, where we didn't get any first downs and not enough screenplays, not enough play action. So what are your thoughts about that?
I think it's a work in progress. I mean, you have a young offensive coordinator working with a veteran quarterback. He wants to do things his way. They're trying to create an offense that's partially what Bruce Arians and Byron Leftwich want to do, which is to play action, to run the ball, run the play action, get the ball downfield. If you've ever watched Tom Brady throughout his career, he's not a downfield thrower. He's a dink and dunker kind of guy. He gets the ball in the right position and then puts it in the end zone. This is totally different than that. He came to an offense and took on a challenge in which he has to figure out a new way of playing. And Byron's had a difficult time in some situations, and so has Tom. But, I think that was bound to happen. Now, next year, I think if things start working on all cylinders like they're supposed to, and they should, and they get far into the playoffs, I think Byron's looking at a head coaching job probably in an NFL somewhere. I do. And poor Marshall fans, a lot of them, we just hired a coach, and a lot of people thought, well, let's just bring Byron in. He could be our head coach. Like, he used to play for us. And Byron's got some big things coming up, man. I think he's going to be offered a head coaching job in the NFL, as he should. I think Eric Bieniemy with the Chiefs should have already been offered a head coaching job, which he hasn't. But I think we're going to start seeing more black head coaches in the NFL. And I think Todd Bowles is probably going to get a head coaching job soon. I think he just interviewed for the Philadelphia job.
Well, and that's one of those things. I know a lot of people, they don't like to hear about retread coaches and things like that. But honestly, sometimes these coaches are hired. They move up the ranks so quickly. I think you and I both know, like, as an attorney, like I feel like it probably took me a good 3 years before I kind of felt comfortable with what I was doing and knowing everything. And when you're talking about leading a team, like as the head coach, you're not just a coach anymore. You're the leader of that. And that it takes time to learn those leadership skills. It takes time to learn how to manage people, and I know, like, my own personal stuff, like, I'm not a good manager of people. So it's not only enough that you're a good play caller, you're a this, you're that, but you also have to have these other qualities. And I think, and you learn that. And I think that as coaches take these first jobs, especially, like I said, they, some of these people are, they become, offensive coordinator, or somebody, Aaron Rodgers, offensive coordinator, and they get a job, they're there for a year, and all of a sudden now they're a head coach. Well, you need more years underneath various head coaches and different things like that to actually learn how to do it the right way. But so I think that Bowles will do a lot better job in his second term than he did in his, because he was the Jets, right? Wasn't he the Jets?
Yeah,
that's a terrible franchise to begin with, too. So I mean,
yeah, he was in a really difficult situation. But man, he's a great defensive mind. If you want a defensive guy to come in and win for you, uh, sort of like the Ravens used to win, the Bears used to win. If you want a guy to come in and stop teams and just wants to run the ball and think and dunk, he's your guy. He'll be a good coach. I think he might be the next Bucks head coach. Honestly, I think that's what he's being groomed to be. I don't think Byron per se is being groomed to be the head coach here, but it's going to be tough though when Brady leaves, man, because we're going to have to rebuild at least
Aaron
the quarterback.
Aaron Rodgers, that's what I hear.
Aaron Rodgers, yeah, he's probably tired of the weather, just come down, thaw out.
It's kind of like living for these aging quarterbacks. Not quite the nursing home yet. They just need a little help. Last few years,
But one thing Brady talks about all the time is that he absolutely can't believe how warm it is here in January. Like, he had no idea. And he said, I can't believe I didn't do this a long time ago. Why did I ever live in New England? And
it's actually been here this year. I mean, for us.
Right. Yeah, it has. It's been like a pretty cold winter. I've actually turned the heat on a few times. But my wife and I were actually on Honeymoon Island, and I ride ahead of her because she's really slow. And we went over the bridge.
She's carrying the kids, but anyway.
No. She just rides like Sunday afternoon. She's got a drink in her hand. I'm riding on my road bike, and I'm kind of moving pretty fast. And I'm talking about pedal bike, right? Yeah. And so we get over the bridge, and she comes flying down from the bridge. And I'm like, why is she riding so fast? She doesn't go fast. And she's like, you missed it. And I said, I missed what? She said, Tom Brady and his wife just took their boat under the bridge, and I saw them. So, of course, I'm like, no, you didn't. You saw some guy who looked like Tom Brady.
Somebody posted
like, and then the next day I read that he just bought a boat, and he spent all of his PPE loan money on a boat. and I don't know. I was really jealous that she got to see him and his wife going under the bridge and cruising around. But Tom's loving life in Florida, man. So maybe we can attract some more free agents to come down here and live the good life in Tampa Bay. Champa Bay, I should say. Look at all these championships.
It's been a rough go at it for a while here in Tampa Bay as a sports fan. So it's
Not
nice
now, baby. Not now. Go Buck.
You think so we got the Lightning, they're off. We got a few more minutes. We got the Lightning, they're off to a 3-0 start. So things look good with them.
Yeah, beat the Jackets last night, right? The Blue Jackets.
Rays made the World Series. It's going to be tough to get back there again, but that's such as baseball. Baseball is not
a great off season, right?
No. But you know what? I will have faith. They've torn that team apart and built it back together, and they've been better than projected usually. So
the last couple of times we talked Rays baseball. We were really excited about the stadium, and that's really kind of pooped to bed since the last time we talked.
Oh, and I did talk to a St. Pete mayoral candidate, and they said that there's still talks going on. That half season deal though is still the real possibility, and they were actually saying that it might actually work, but that St. Pete would still be the location most likely. That Tampa just doesn't have the funding. They don't have the other stuff that St. Pete and Pinellas County may still actually be the best place for the Rays, mainly from a funding standpoint. If you get someone still got a stadium.
Put them in a minor league park, though. I mean, are you really going to build a stadium in St. Pete again?
That was my, I emailed Brian several years ago, maybe not that long ago. Brian Auld. We're not on first name, but I like to refer to him as Brian. And I emailed him and said that we should essentially do like almost essentially a minor league park, 5,000-10,000 fans, but have camera angles everywhere so that people can manipulate their own cameras and do whatever on their computer.
Change the experience.
And during the coronavirus, they would have been prepared for that. So if they had taken my advice,
prepared
for
that
this.
would have been great for 1 year, maybe 2. But
But the
I
reality is
agree.
people are not going that much. Like they're not going to live sports as much as they used to. And
And
you
will they after the pandemic? Will they get back and come the way they do? I'm not sure. I'm not sure how comfortable I feel around that many people right now.
I tell
After
you
the
what, when sports went away, I learned that I could live without sports. And I think that's what a lot of people did. And I think that's what the sports leagues are dealing with now is because viewership is down everywhere on all the different ones.
yeah, it's hard to watch games where there's no crowd. It just doesn't seem the same. It's like I don't know. It's hard. It's hard watching Lambeau Field empty in the snow is no. It's like watching a pickup game. But as long as they stay off the crowd
Like
enough,
watching the intramurals at Marshall, right?
yeah, we've watched plenty of those. You and I have.
Intramural flag football.
Yes, we were intramural officials, you and I, at Marshall University. But yeah, I think the Bucks have a great chance of winning. We beat the Packers 38-7 last time we played them. That's not to say that we're going to do that again, but we can. We have the potential if we get our players in the right places. This time next week, man, we might be talking about the Bucks at home in the Super Bowl.
So what's your prediction here?
I mean, all right. So
38, 38 yeah.
Here's the way I like to operate.
Let's never pick from the guest. Well, I mean, our listeners.
Yeah, while we're talking, you guys type in your guesses. I know a lot of you aren't from the area, so whatever. If you're from Wisconsin, go eat a block of cheese. But I like to bet against my team, so that way I win my bet if my team loses. So I'm a winner either way. But I'm not going to do that. I'll take the Bucks, and I'll take the Bills. Bucks and Bills.
Bucks and Bills. Huh?
And
what do you think the score of the Bucks game is going to be?
I think the weather's going to keep it under 50 points. I think we're talking about 24-7, 24-20 Bucks.
All right. 24-20. All right.
24-20.
So that means Aaron Rodgers is going to be with the ball, and the ball's going to go out of the end zone, right? Last play of the game.
The end of the game,
Hail Mary is going to go through the end zone.
Hail Mary, and I hope we're not in a situation where he throws a Hail Mary because he's thrown more complete Hail Marys in the end zone than any other quarterback, I think, in the history of the league. But yeah, I mean, hopefully that we're in the victory formation. That's what I'm hoping.
That's what I hope so too, and I think having Vita Vea back in the middle will help the receiving core. I think offensive line has played incredible. They don't get enough credit. I know Donovan Smith. I've probably railed against him in the past, and everybody has, and they've played really well. And so if they keep Tom Brady clean, they don't turn the ball over, I think we're headed to the Super Bowl. He gets sacked, and we turn the ball over, we can also get crushed. So
we're wearing white jerseys in the snow. I'm a little worried about that.
Listen, Tom Brady's played enough games in the snow, so I feel that I do feel good. I mean, Tom Brady.
It's not him I'm worried about. It's the rest of the guys.
Like they just throw the ball to each other. They both know how to throw and catch in the cold. Everybody else can just be decoys.
Look for Chris Godwin to have a good game. He's due. Yep. He's had 2 bad games in a row. Look for him to have a good game. He's a baller. He's going to ball out this weekend.
Yeah. So that's good in cold weather. All right,
man. Fun.
We're done.
It's been cool. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Did somebody give us the finger?
Yes, they did. I'm pretty sure I know who that was, even though it doesn't say her name. So it came across as the bicycling story. So
that's on your side, not mine. So.
Somebody being slow. So after that's when the finger came up. So I'm only guessing that's who it was.
All right. I want to say hello to my wife Raquel, my son Frankie, my mom and dad Tom and Carol. Love you guys.
All right. Peace, everybody. Have a good one. We'll be back next week.